I'm Nan McKay, and I would like to introduce you today to Karen Jenkins. Karen Jenkins is the president and CEO of KRJ Consulting, a full service consulting firm providing companies and their employees with the skills and resources to become more committed to their performance, empowered to affect change, and be prepared for the journey ahead. With over 30 years of experience, Karen is a recognized speaker, author, and leadership consultant, equipping executives with the necessary tools to create results-driven organizational change. Karen leads KRJ Consulting clients to experience the same growth through her guiding concept of what she calls synergy leadership. With synergy leadership, she develops confident leaders who engage, enlighten, and empower their teams. She reaches hundreds of people through KRJ Consulting by sharing her wealth of knowledge in a practical approach, and consistently strives to inspire people and businesses with continuous education. In addition to making headway in the leadership consulting space, she's a financial expert and has served as a financial media consultant for NBC affiliate TV in Columbia, South Carolina. And she has published her book, Nobody Told Me, The Path to Financial Empowerment, which she published in 2010 and is still a very relevant book. She's won many awards. Karen was named South Carolina Female Small Business Person of the Year by the United States Small Business Administration South Carolina District Office for her role in the advancement of KRJ Consulting over the years. In 2019, she was recognized as a Woman of the Year by Enterprising Women magazine in the over 2 million and up to 5 million in annual sales category. So welcome, Karen Jenkins.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So tell me a little bit about where did you start and how did you arrive at this spot in your business?
Well, Nan, I tell you, it was not planned. This was not my vision. I am, originally from Columbia, South Carolina. I went to the University of South Carolina. I worked for a bank while I was in school, attending college. So my first year, I was going to school full-time, and I was working part-time. By my sophomore year, I was working full-time and started going to school part-time. So it took me about 7.5 years to finish with a business degree in business management. But by the time I graduated, I was assistant vice president at the bank. So of course, my plan and trajectory was just to continue on that path. And I ended up leaving after about 12 years. They wanted me to stay with the company, but they had transitioned my position to Charlotte. And Charlotte traffic just wasn't my cup of tea. So I put my resume out, and I was blessed and landed a position with a company called RBMG. And they were one of only 2 independently owned mortgage companies at the time. Countrywide was the big monstrosity, and we were the little guys. So I was with RBMG for about 11 years. Halfway through my career, they merged with an internet-based bank called NetBank out of Georgia, and we became NetBank. And I loved that job. I mean, it was a great experience. And my plan was to, again, retire there. But sometimes the universe has other plans for you. I ended up getting laid off in 2007. And you know what happened after that. I ended up looking for other opportunities, but locally just didn't find any at the level in which I was used to playing. I think at that time I was a vice president at the company. So I reached out and took a leap of faith and opened up my own mortgage brokerage firm to be able to offer mortgage lending to the local community. Well, that was in March of 2007, and you know what happened in 2008. I was blessed on that journey, though, because I had an opportunity I met one of the local broadcasters here, and we were going to, I did an interview with them. And after the interview, they asked me if I would come on to be a ongoing financial consultant. So I didn't ask for that either. And it was the prime time because it was about the time, probably the fall of 2007, when all of the things started unraveling. And the news was really doing a lot of casting on mortgages and what was happening. So from there, I was contacted by a local nonprofit who was looking for my background in mortgage banking, because I'm also a certified mortgage banker, to help with fighting foreclosure in the state of South Carolina. And they wanted me, but not my company, because my company was a mortgage company, and it was, mortgage companies' history was they were part of the problem. So I actually created KRJ Consulting to be a service provider for them. So we opened up in April of 2008. From April 2008 to December 2008, we actually saved 148 homes from foreclosure. Probably could have done a lot more than that, but everybody didn't respond with the documentation that we needed. In 2009, we did more of intake and outreach for the nonprofit. They did more of the one-on-one counseling all that year on their own. I started teaching at a local college. I actually had an opportunity to teach at my local college, USC, for about a year as well. And I kind of evolved, and I was looking at what can I do. I started doing more work for the nonprofit industry, but the responses were kind of slow as far as how many projects I could get to. So I rebranded in 2012, working with the Small Business Development Center, and kind of looked at my gifts. Where was I gifted? What did I think I could put on the table? What could I offer? So I opened up or transitioned to consulting, training, and development. And in 2013, got into the federal contracting space. So that has been where we've been resonating, offering federal contracts. We have grown into a full service consulting firm where we basically support the mission of our clients by providing professional, administrative, and IT support services. Our goal is to leverage our overall expertise from all the subject matter experts that we have to augment our clients' ability to fulfill their mission, to mitigate their risk, and to reach their objectives. So that's kind of where we are today and with KRJ Consulting.
A lot of people don't know about federal contracting. Are you certified as an 8A contractor?
I am. I'm a certified woman-owned small business and 8A contractor.
Talk a little bit about that, would you, so other people understand what that means and how they go about doing that?
So the federal government spends trillions of dollars every year, and there's a mandate or a rule or law through the Small Business Administration that they have to spend 23% of those trillions with small businesses. There are 5 categories of small business. There's just a regular small business. There's a woman-owned small business. There's a service-disabled small business. There's the Hub Zone certification, and then there's an 8A certification. The 8A certification, out of all of those that I just listed, is the only one that is timed. It is a limit of 9 years. So once you get into the program, you only have 9 years to proceed through it. And after that, it's over. And what that demographic is the way that I explain it is non-white male. So it's referenced as a disadvantaged business enterprise, because when you look at the 77% of the business that's out there, or really 100%, the majority of it goes to white males. So this program allows small businesses to compete with other small businesses instead of having to be a small business competing with a big mammoth organization that you probably couldn't do as far as offering competitive pricing to, because they have economies of scale and they can offer much better pricing. So this program is a launch pad to help you, again, build your organization through this 9-year program, and then be in a position to grow it or prepare yourself to grow it outside of that program thereafter.
So are you certified by WeBank when you are certified as a woman-owned business?
I just actually got my WeBank certification. In the federal space, up until October of this year, you could self-certify through their system. And it was really just, supplying a few documents online to them. And that was all you needed to do for the federal side. If you were on the corporate side, the corporations that leveraged the women-owned certification required what they call a third party I'm also a member of the Carolina, Virginia Supply Diversity Council, and they certified me as a minority-owned business and a woman-owned business, well, more minority-owned business, and then WeBank does the women-owned business. So we just got that certification, I think last month, primarily because now we're looking at moving into the corporate space.
So what would you advise to people who are thinking about going that direction?
Well, a lot of people think about either the women-owned certification, which again, it doesn't have a timeline, but when you look at the 8A, there's a 2-year requirement that you have to be in business for 2 years. And they do that for a reason. Because it's timed and you have to go in and learn the process, and there's a lot to learn. You don't want to waste your time, learning the process. So my advice is to get into government contracting, maybe through subcontracting to a larger prime contractor, or just getting in, doing some small jobs that don't necessarily require the big procurement process, and get some past performance. And then once you get in there and get used to and acclimated to it, then you'll have the time to go in and do the certification. One of the things about certifications, Nan, and I don't care if it's the SCDOT or the Department of Transportation has a disadvantaged business enterprise certification as well. Normally that's on the state level, the women-owned. All of these certifications, people go through the process, and some of them are very paper intense. And it can be time consuming. It's worth it, but it can be time consuming. And you go through this process and you go, oh, okay, I've gotten the certification, yay, now it's going to rain contracts. No, all the certification is a license to fish. That's all it is. It's a license to fish. It gives you the license to fish in a pond that for women-owned, that only women-owned can fish in, or in a pond where 8A organizations, or if you're service disabled vet, right? Or if you're Hub Zone certified based on your location of your business, it gives you the license to fish. So, there are programs out there. For example, I do a training program for our local Department of Transportation. It's called I'm Certified Now What? Because people had that misconception that, oh my gosh, I went through all this process and I'm just sitting here and it's going to rain contracts. And that definitely isn't the case.
And in some cases, it just gives you extra points.
Yes. So normally on the local government side, is local agencies will do that. They will, if you have a certain certification, and normally for locales, at least here, it's more points are given more so on your location. If you are a local enterprise versus an external enterprise, they might boost you by 10 points or something like that when you're doing your bid, because most of them are going to do lowest price, which is unfortunate because lowest price isn't always the best option for the client.
That's very true. Your guiding concept, it seems like, in your business is something called the synergy leadership. So tell me more about what that means to you.
So, man, this was phenomenal for me. I had the opportunity to, and it was crazy because I did it because as a adjunct professor, as a business owner, I did, coaching and counseling and all this stuff for years. And there were a couple of opportunities out there that I wanted to put a proposal in for, but they required a certified coach. And I'm like, but wait a minute, I do it, I have it. You look at my credentials. So I finally buckled down and went and got certified through a program called IPAC and was introduced to Dr. Bruce Snyder, who has a book on energy leadership. And it really resonated with me and how I live my life. I believe that you are responsible for the energy that you bring into the room. And nobody else can be responsible for that other than you. And what that means is when you walk into a room, people are going to respond to your energy. And depending on what kind of energy you bring, it's going to dictate the kind of response that you receive. I can't tell you the number of people that I've spoken to or just kind of sit back and watch, and they walk in, and most of them unknowingly walk in with this, what we call negative energy, because maybe they just stumped their toe or they just had an argument with somebody, and that thing that they carry with them, and they walk in and they say something to someone, and the way that they say it, they don't hear themselves, but it comes across like, Rah! And then when the person responds back to them with a Rah! Back, it's like, wait a minute, okay, whoa, why are you speaking to me that way? And I tell them, I say, well, act like you're in a movie and hit rewind, and let's go back. And I want you to watch yourself and see what energy did you bring into the room. Not every time, but a lot of times when things happen to us, we are the contributing factor, and we have to take ownership for that. So out of what I learned from Bruce Snyder's energy leadership, I came in with, okay, how do I live my life? I do it through what we call the 3 E's. That when you're working with your team, first it starts with you, right? You have to self-leadership first, be responsible for the energy that you bring in. But you end up looking at, okay, I'm going to work with my team. I'm going to work with people. I'm going to work with whoever I'm working with. And I have to engage them. I have to help them understand what's in it for you. What role are you playing? I've had so many people that work on jobs, and the job is, okay, I make a screw. Okay, what does that mean? I make a screw. So are you going to feel good about that? No. But when you explain to that person the role that they play within the whole concept of this organization, that screw, it's a manufacturer, let's say it's Boeing, right? So at Boeing, you're making the screw or checking the screw that will go into the door of the airplane. And if you do it well, then you're saving people's lives. If you don't do it well, that door could very well come off the hinge and people could die. So when you tell people and explain to them their why they're here, their purpose, what they're doing, and how they fit in the whole chain of events, there's a sense of gratitude, or let me say, a sense of pride that they get when they understand, here's my role. So the engagement part of my E3 is basically engaging that person. The next phase is the enlightenment. So when we enlighten people, it's about knowledge. When people know better, they do better. And a lot of people don't understand their roles, or they don't have enough training, or there's just some process that they need to get a little bit better at. So we're going to enlighten them with information. Now, armed with the engagement of knowing my why, armed with now this new knowledge, I am now empowered. And I now can make decisions and do things that I never thought I could do. So when you take all 3 of these, along with managing your energy, I call that synergy leadership, because now I can now leverage my energy and the energy of my team around these 3 concepts to accomplish anything that our team decides that we want to accomplish. And you can do that from an individual level. You can do that from a team level. You can do that from a family level. But it's all about leveraging that energy.
You know what I think is really relevant about what you're saying is the engagement issue for people that are like the Gen Y and the Gen Zs, the millennials and
Yes.
And they need to see they're linked to a cause, or that something that they're doing is really worthwhile, more than most of our other generations.
Yes.
This sounds like it's exactly what's needed to kind of hook them into what I'm doing is worthwhile.
Exactly, because, back in the day, so let's call it baby boomers. So I'm on the cuff. Baby boomers went to work, and we went to work. There was no asking why you went to work. You just went to work, and we would stay at work, and we would stay with, it was called dedication. You find people that, work for the same company for 30, 40, 50 years. That's not the case anymore. And our mantra or our mentality has not changed. But you look at our Gen Xers, well, not Gen X, maybe more millennials, and you look at them and they don't stay on a job too long. And the reason that they don't is exactly why you say it. They have to feel a purpose. They have to feel there has to be a reason I'm doing this. What is my why? What is my why? And when you can satisfy that why, you can keep them for a longer duration of time than most people are able to keep them. But it's sad because the baby boomers need it too. And when you want to increase somebody's productivity, when you want to have them more engaged, get them to that why. Help them understand not just the why of the company. We have to dig down. Before it was like, do this because I said so. Now it's do this because there's something in it for you. Show them the opportunity from their vantage point.
I really like what you're saying because, the baby boomers may be sticking around simply because they need to get to their retirement age.
Mm-hmm.
They're not quite there. And so engaging them for something, not just because you're here to get to retirement, but
Right.
over here to love what you're doing is so important.
It is. I mean, you will automatically get an increase in productivity when you can hit that why for anybody. I don't care what generation you're in. You can hit their button. Think about it. There are things that you like to do, Nan, that you will do it and you're just all in it, and your posture changes and your face changes and you're just in it and it doesn't even feel like work, and you're just having a good time, and you're probably making 10 or 15 of them when most people would make 2, versus there's certain things that you don't like to do and you're dreading. It's like, okay, your body automatically gets slower, right? I don't know why we do that. Things we don't like to do, we do it slower when you should just get it done quickly and efficiently and get away with it. But anyway, that's just mental psyche. But, you take your time and you're not really into it. So we have to figure out how to meet each person where they are and help them understand how they fit in and understand. And everybody doesn't fit in, man. I hate to say it. Everybody doesn't fit in. And I think sometimes we have this thing. So with my team, we did a strategic planning session last month, and we're going to do another one for 2021 in November. And one of the things we did, we shared the company's why, the purpose. We shared the company's core values. But I also asked them to share with me their core values, their personal core values. Gave them an exercise to even figure out what it is, because most people don't even know what their core values are. If I said, give me your top 5, couldn't answer. Now, how you are, and your core values help you make decisions. And, God is kind of those guiding principles to help you get through life. But we've never really been taught to sit down and actually go through them and live by them. So what you have is, when you have a person that's working at a job and they're unhappy, it's probably because that company and what they're doing and how they're doing it really doesn't align with that person's true core values. If you're a person and you're kind of laid back and you like peace and calm and, serenity, you probably don't want to work in the customer service department. But if that was the only people hiring and you needed a job, right, you're going to take that job, but you're going to be miserable in it because it doesn't align with your core values. So now if you identify your core values and figure out what is important to me, and then you can go in and look at a company and say, what is important to this company? Then you get an alignment and everybody's moving in the same direction. But when your core values is going this way and the companies are going that way, that's when you have friction. And 9 times out of 10, the company loses because there's a lower level of productivity. The culture may be impacted, but the employee really loses out because, that's 8 hours of your life that you're trying to figure out.
Do you think this also ties into like a behavioral style, like the DISC profile or something like that?
It really does. I think the DISC profile gets very specific on personality types, and it's very helpful. But I think even within personality types, you have your core values, your guiding light. Your guiding light of and most people have to understand that. And I try to tell them, or when we went through ours, it was, I want your personal core value. I don't want your job core values. I don't want your job goals. This is not about the job. This is about you personally. Who are you when you're not here? Who are you when you're wherever you are? And when you look at it more granularly to that perspective, it's a nice way for people to make sure that they have their compass.
So give me your 3 of your values so that people understand what you're talking about.
So my core values, my first one is family. My second is people. And my third is love. So my family is very important to me. They're kind of my thriving guide. My second one is people. they call me an ambivert. I think I'm an ambivert. So I love people, but I love my independence. But at the end of the day, my mantra is to help people, and not to help people from a sense of, here, let me give you a handout. My help is to teach you how to fish, because I think that everybody has the potential to do wonderful, remarkable things. And I think that there is no such thing as a zero-sum game, that it doesn't have to be rich and poor, that everybody has an opportunity to be the best them that they can be. And it's not, my story isn't their story. It's like you and I have two different stories, and it doesn't make my story wrong and yours right, or vice versa, right? But I really believe in empowering people. My mantra when I did some of the financial literacy stuff was to empower people to prepare and protect themselves financially. But I really want to just empower people to prepare and protect themselves for whatever. And I think that I get really happy about it. I get really happy when I can give somebody some information that they can leverage and use to help their lives. And truly, for me, love is everything. For me, love is God, love is life, love is everything. And I think we don't have enough of that, which is why we have so much separation and conflict right now, that if you just base it on love, right? Love is kind, love, yeah. So those are my three that I really and truly try to live by. So here's how you know if somebody's really, when you ask them their core values, when you see them live it. So when I shared with you that I asked my team when we did our meeting, and I said, okay, share with me your goals. And they did it individually. So when we met individually, and I could look at their goals, their core values, and I could see it. Before maybe if I had to guess what it was, but they nailed it. So I was like, yeah, that is you. That is important to you. That is how you live. Though, you have made decisions based on that. So you kind of look at the litmus test to say, okay, are they really serious about this? Is this really what's important to them? And I can tell you 100% of the people that I looked at their list, it was like, it was them. It truly was them.
That's interesting. In 2020, you were named Entrepreneur in Residence at the Richland Library in Columbia, where you used your expertise in financial literacy and also leadership council to serve the needs of Richland County. So tell me a little bit about that.
So the Richland Library received a Google grant that allowed them to offer this program. And I am the fourth Entrepreneur in Residence, where I offer one-on-one coaching, small business coaching to current or budding entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are one of my passions. Helping, as we already talked about, helping people is one of my passions. Educating people and helping them, identify resources, what they can do to be better. It has been an outstanding program. I honestly, there's always a silver lining in everything. I could not have done this program if we were not in the midst of COVID. And when I looked at it and they asked me to do it, I said, okay. And I had to sit back and look at my life and look at, I'm running a business here, right? I have a staff, I have clients, there's a whole lot going on in running a business. And I had to think about it and go, okay, so do I do this or no? If I were really working, if COVID wasn't here, the answer would have hands down been no. But because I can do it from home, I don't have to travel down there. I don't have to sit at the library. I don't have to travel back. I have a team that's supporting me administratively on some of those things. So it was a perfect storm for me to come in and offer my level of expertise to these budding entrepreneurs. And working with the library has been phenomenal. They have a phenomenal group of people. And I can tell you, I actually had to speak for a group of librarians across the country as part of this program. And I can tell you, one of the most hidden resources that we don't know about is our libraries. I mean, our library has so many resources for small businesses. They have equipment that we can check out, that you don't have to spend the money to go and buy a camera or do the green screen or get the recorder. They have so many other resources that they provide. So I recommend to your listeners and viewers to go to their local library and find out what resources do they have available. I'll tell you another good resource that I've leveraged for years is the Small Business Development Center. They are nationwide, they're funded by the SBA, and they offer no cost consulting to small businesses. So depending on what you're trying to do, you have leadership support, you have small business support. Even with, if I'm just a leader, and I'm trying to figure out how do I leverage my team? What do I need to do? A local library might have some resources that as the leader, you can pitch to. When we went telework, we left our office on March 16th. And one of the things that we had to do, Nan, was we brought our staff. We have staff that works out in the field with our clients, and everybody went home. But the reality was everybody doesn't know how to work from home. Working from home is learn how to do it, right? So we ended up hosting a couple of sessions for our team members to give them the best practices of how to work from home, having your isolated area, having time that a dedicated time frame, getting the distractions away from you and how to go about doing that. One of the things that I do is I host a free group mentoring coaching program every other month for small business owners. So we were doing it live. We were going to lunch. I called it Meet Me at Mio's because that's where we met to meet for an hour and a half. And then we moved it but I had to work with them on how do you work from home? How do you make it through this process? And even we talked about how to pivot. Leaders need to understand how to pivot. What's happening right now, the challenge is in our previous crisis, whether it was 2008, whether it was 9/11, whether we had a 100-year flood here, every crisis that we've always faced, it happened, it ended, and then we moved on to recovery. Where we are now is it happened, and it's still happening, and it's still happening, and it's still happening. So we have to figure out as leaders, how do we manage that when we don't know how long we're going to be here? How do we keep our team members engaged? How do we give them that support and keep their eye on the ball? There's so many negative things out there right now that are taking our eye off the ball and back to that energy. If we can harness that energy and give them what they need, our role right now is to try to keep them focused.
Let's ask that a question in that area. What do you see is the biggest problem for society now and in the future?
I would call it ego. Separation. I think as a society, just like love brings everything together and is all inclusive, I think separation and people not thinking that their actions or energy is going to impact everybody else as a whole. We have a collective energy as a nation, as a world, and what we put out there in that world is going to come back to us. And I really think that this is probably the reckoning, that we have had so much what we call negative catabolic energy out in the world that, God said, let's just shut it down. And we all are now in a position we have to be reflective of, okay, who am I? What am I? Who do I want to be? This is a time when you're sitting down and there's no, football kind of came back on, or the sports kind of came back on. But there was a long period of time where there was nothing on. And I hope that people took that time to turn in internally and make some real hard decisions about who they wanted to be. And life is not about, when you start talking about your life purpose, because a lot of people just kind of go through life purpose is about what you can do and contribute, not about what you can take. It's not an individual thing. And I'll share this with you. I was talking to a chair of a board that I sit on, and we were talking about a documentary that I had seen years ago. And there was this senator who had retired, and he talked about how years ago, so this is 10 years ago, so he must have been talking about 15, 20 years ago. He talked about how when you have a, say, a legislative body and two sides, left and right, that they would be in the legislative council room and they'd meet and they'd talk about law, whatever. And then after that, they go to lunch together. Or after that, they would go and have dinner together. Their families would connect, their kids would play. And someone went in and drew a line, like the little girls on the little playground do, and said, oh, well, you can't talk to them. You can't speak to them. Oh, you can't speak to them and be my friend. Like, really? So because of the separation, we don't have the connections outside of the legislative body, then it's okay for me to slight you. It's okay for me to say something negative to you. It's okay for me to be rude to you, to be ugly to you, because I don't have that connection with you. And I think, one or two things, we need to either clear them all out or teach them how to act. Because if you can treat people as human, back to love, right? You can teach people, I can disagree with you without being disagreeable. I don't want everybody thinking like I think. I think it's valuable to have a diverse population and valuable to have a diverse way of thinking. And because my idea, your idea comes together, and guess what? We'll have a super idea, right? Because we're considering all the factors. And until we get to a point where we recognize that we're not separate from each other, that we are one, we're all human beings, okay? You can have a female being and a male being, but at the end of the day, the last name or the last word of that is we're all beings. You can have white and black, you can have gay and straight, you can have whatever. We're all beings, and we have to learn to love and respect each other. Again, back to that love. And I'm praying that after all of this gets to a point where COVID has gone away, that we can pick up the pieces and put ourselves back together in the way in which we were meant to be. And I can tell you, man, this isn't it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is not. And sometimes I think it's hard to figure out how to move forward when there is such extreme division in the country today.
It's sad. It's really sad. And, we are supposed to be the world leader, setting the example for other third world countries to say, hey, this is how it's supposed to be. This is, let us set the example for you. And I hope we can get back to that. I really do. I have faith in life. My sister-in-law says life is a masterclass. And it says what she says the world is self-organizing and self-correcting, and it doesn't need our help. So we'll see.
We'll see. I want to talk a little bit about your book. You have a book that's been out since 2010, but I want to know, how did you decide to write it? And how has it, being an author, has that changed your life in any way?
So I'll start with the change my life in a way first, and then we'll go back to why. Change my life because, again, back to my core values, it gave me the opportunity to empower someone with knowledge, to make their lives better. So when I was coming up, my parents, my mother was a teacher, my father was military, and the only conversation we had about bills was very limited. I don't remember, and then most of the conversation was money doesn't grow on trees, and, all these terms that came from a place of lack instead of a place of abundance. So I had to learn the hard way. I went to school. I got a job at Wendy's in the 10th, going into my 11th grade year. And I think when I got to USC, my name went on a roster. Back then, they used to sell the students' rosters to all the credit card companies. And I got every credit card offer in America. And I signed my name on every credit card in America. And when I tell you that my very first card that I got, man, I'm going to show you how I did it too. My very first credit card that I got, I ended up going to where did I go? I went to Sears because it was a Sears credit card. Girl, I got my card out. I signed it. I walked in the store. I didn't even bother to put it in my purse, okay? I walked in the store with my little card like this because I was so proud, you know, had my little card, little young girl, didn't know what I was doing, and went in and bought stuff. Probably nothing that I needed. I just wanted to use the card because I used to think the little machine that they had, the little trink machine was cute too. And then my first bill came in. And I thought I was doing something because I think the bill was like $120, $25. And they told me I only had to pay $10 a month. Oh my gosh, I thought I was in hog heaven. You mean I only have to pay $10? Oh, girl, I went back to the store. After I got that, I said, oh, is that all I have to pay? Went back to the store like a crazy person. But this is what, you know, young, you know, crazy people do when they're in college and don't know no better. So I get the bill, and after a while, you know, of course, it goes up. I had so many credit cards. I remember one day I had on my, you know, Wendy's back in the day, we had the little teal, white, and teal and white striped little smocks. And now, so what I did get from my mother is I had to pay my bills every month. So I watched her do it. She got her bills, she sat at the kitchen table, she wrote them out, she mailed them. So that's what I knew I had to do. So I did that every month. So one payday, I went and did that. And I balanced my checkbook. And I had $5.75 left in my checkbook on payday. So I knew I was having a problem. There was something going on and I needed to fix it. My grandfather gave me wise counsel, and he told me to cut them up and put them in a mason jar and stick them on my dresser to give me the reminder that I was now a slave to my credit card, because I wasn't working to do anything particular but other than pay my credit cards off. So over time, I learned how to, during the snowball effect, learn how to pay my debt down and then eventually get out of debt. So I didn't another crazy story. My parents told me to go get a used car when it was time for me to buy a car. Hard-headed me. Oh no, I had to get a new one. And when I walked into that car dealership, I was like the little lamb, and there were 10 wolves standing around me. And yes, ma'am, they took advantage of me because I was paying a high interest rate on a car that I'm like, really, wow, didn't realize it. Now, the good news is I kept my car for 10 years. So I did get my money back. I recouped it, right? But there were just so many lessons that I had not been taught. And I wrote the book I wrote the book because when I was doing the counseling for people facing foreclosure, during that time, we were doing one-on-one counseling. I can't tell you the number of people that sat across the desk from me, doctors, lawyers, you know, teachers, you know, people that worked at McDonald's, whoever, everybody had a problem. This thing did not miss anyone. And the reality was there were so many people there that didn't have to be there. There were people that were in adjustable rate mortgages that their rates changed. They couldn't go into another loan program because the industry had changed. And I'm looking at them like, why were you even in an adjustable rate mortgage? Because you qualified for a lower rate or maybe a little higher on a fixed rate, and you would have been fine. So I saw that people were listening to professionals that probably didn't know what they were talking about, or they had the lie loan where you could just tell people how much you made and they would believe you. You're not making $4,000 working at McDonald's. You're just not going to do it. So why would you even sign your name to that? So after seeing all of that and seeing the devastation that it caused for different families, I decided to write a financial literacy book. It talked about the credit score and how to, you know, what made up the credit score, understanding your credit score, how to maintain it. It talked about if you were facing foreclosure, you know, what you needed to do, or if you were falling behind on your bills. It talked about if you're in debt, here's my strategy of how I got out. It talked about building your A team, which was all of your financial people and who you needed and when. It talked about just the basic process of maintaining a budget. You know, what was a budget? So very simple. When I first wrote, I think my son might have been 12, and I gave it to him to read. He read it, he understood it, he got it. But people have to, I don't understand why they don't put it in schools to teach people these basic tips, but it's crucial because whatever you do in your financial life is going to affect your entire life. And Lord forbid you decide to go in business, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm gonna open up a business. Well, your personal finance is going to follow you there too. So my whole mantra was, again, teaching people how to manage and hold on to their money, because the whole game is to separate you from your money. And I was talking to my sister after I wrote it, and I said, you know, I don't know what I'm going to call this book. and we were on the phone, and I remember every time I got hit with something or got burnt by something, one of my little life lessons around money, I would go, oh, well, nobody told me that, or nobody told me. And then I had to say the reality, okay, so yeah, my mom probably did say some things, but as a young person, you don't listen, right? So that's why I called it Nobody Told Me, the Path to Financial Empowerment.
Well, that sounds like a great book. In fact, I'm going to buy it for my granddaughter, who sounds very much like she has gone through much of what you went through as well. And this may be the next step for her. So it definitely, everybody should go buy their book. And even if you're not the one that'll help, there's probably somebody that it will help.
Yes.
Well, that's good advice for the younger generation. Do you have any other advice you would give?
Around finance or just in general?
General.
So yeah, when, back to, I would have people go back and try to figure out what is their, I don't want to call it your moral compass, but you can call it your moral compass. I would recommend you go back and try to identify where your core values. And during this time, you identify specifically what your core values are. There's a list of adjectives. If they want a copy of the form that I use, they can email me. I'll be happy to share it with them. It's a 2-page little list of adjectives that I have people go in, and I tell them to, highlight the top 25, because it's hard to do now. This is not easy. So you list your top 25, and then you narrow it down to 20, and then you narrow it down to 15, and you narrow it down to 10, and you narrow it down to 5. That's, because there's certain things on there that are important to you, but you get to the final. And then make sure that you're using that as your guiding light, that when you make your decisions, that your core values, the things that you do, the things that you're involved in should really align with what your core values. Doesn't have to do it 100% of the time, and it doesn't have to mirror. I said align. Align means sometimes complement, not necessarily be the exact thing. We did I got a lot of calls from people who were really struggling through how to handle this crisis. And people, they struggle with change anyway. And then you put a crisis on top of that. That's a challenging thing to do. We did a workshop called Crisis to Confidence, Leading Through Uncertainty and Crisis. So there's a free video. If they want that, they can have that too. A free video that kind of walks you high level through how do you manage change. And it's really accepting it, because adapting to change is really about a mindset. You can resist it all you want to. It's not going away, but that resistance is causing you undue stress and building up your cortisol levels. So, helping you understand that, understanding how to lead yourself, understanding how to understand your why, because that's going to be, again, understanding your why will change your life. And I think a lot of people go through life not knowing their purpose and not knowing their why and not realizing that it's really about, some people say each one teach one, or how can I impact others, or what can I give? Because, when I look at people that hold on to stuff all the time, when you have that fist, right, and you're trying to hold on to everything that you have, guess what? You're blocking your blessings, because if I come in and try to give you something, your hand is closed, so you can't receive it. But if you're giving, if you're that giving person, you're there to not only give, but you're there to receive when that blessing and when it's your turn to be blessed. So I guess those are a few tips that I would give people to share.
So Karen, give people your website address if you would, because I think that a lot of people might like some of those resources.
So I'm gonna give you two. KRJ Consulting.com is our main website. If you want information around the Crisis to Confidence, it's actually crisis2confidence.com. So those are two websites that you can go to get additional information on leadership and Crisis to Confidence and the stuff that we just talked about around COVID and how you get around that, or just our overall offering of information. They can join our newsletter. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And it's KarenRJenkins.com on all 4 handles.
Well, you have been just wonderful in giving us advice and tips and thoughts and about the important things in life, not about just how to do business strategy, but who are you as a person and how do you get along and survive in this life? And I think it's been so helpful. So I really thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation and thank you for having me, and I really enjoyed it.